2019's Need for Speed Heat helps to commemorate the 25th anniversary of a series that seemingly, in the opinion of the general populace, peaked on the PlayStation 2. And growing up with a PS2, I was never very interested in racing games in general, but was very much intrigued by the intense cop chases that defined this series. In a way, it was basically GTA Lite for kids. You couldn't get out of the car, you couldn't shoot anything, but there was still all this intense and largely organic escape scenes that would play out. For those unfamiliar with Heat's developer, Ghost Games, this was the final game they made before being relegated to a simple support studio on Battlefield 2042. Now, knowing EA's track record with closing fan-favorite studios, this is actually probably a great indicator that this may be the best game that Ghost Games made. Need for Speed Heat is the type of racing game that fans wanted, but the EA higher-ups probably despised. Now, when I became interested in trying out a modern Need for Speed game after having been away from the series for something like at least a decade, it quickly became clear that Heat was the general choice of the one to play. In the most recent generation, you have this divisive but generally acceptable Rivals game, a very skippable reboot simply titled Need for Speed, and the 2017 disaster that was Need for Speed Payback. Now, the gameplay in Payback may be good, it may even be great, but it's crammed behind a loot box style progression system that, as you would expect, fans absolutely hated. Upgrades came in the form of these part cards that were claimed via random rolls on a slot machine. Now, Heat, on the other hand, steps away from this for a more traditional progression system using in-game currency. And in this way, Heat is the kind of cohesive single-player experience that comes without the need for microtransactions that seems so rare by today's standards. And honestly, this probably sounds too good for a game released by EA only a few years ago. But this is kind of during a time period where EA was releasing some more complete games, and admittedly they've done so over the past few years with games like It Takes Two, where you're really getting a complete experience out of the box. Now, this game takes place in an open world inspired by Miami and feels, in my opinion, adequate in size. It's a map that looks small by modern open world standards. If you put this up against like Assassin's Creed Valhalla, you're going to think this is a small map, but in reality it's small enough where it feels like it's actually packed with fun activities to do that aren't just overly repetitive, boring side quests. And it's for this reason that repeatedly going down some of the same streets a ton of times actually gives this a reasonable sense of place. Now, there is a story here, but it's not one that I was interested in the slightest. It's your typical racers versus police type story, and the role of how the character fits into the whole thing from the very beginning is very nonsensically thrown together. The more you think about the story, the less sense it makes, but in reality, this is an arcade racer, not some sort of realistic sim or something you should take too seriously, as no insurance company would realistically insure these people. The bulk of the game, the real good part of the game, comes from just enjoying the open world. The open nature of the game is taken advantage of in a way where the story takes a back seat and it actually opens up into a meaningful open world that so many modern games are missing. Now, the game is broken up into daytime and nighttime events. During the day, you race in legitimate races to earn money, or as it's called in the game, bank, and you can use this in-game currency to upgrade your car, be it cosmetically or in terms of actual performance, or you can just outright buy a new vehicle. Now, there's over 100 vehicles in the game, and with the extensive amount of customization available, even full-on engine swaps, there are near endless different rides available to you. You really need at least 3 different types of vehicles to switch between to perform well in any of the core event types. There are your typical street races, off-road races, and these point-based drift events, so having a car for each of these is crucial to performing well. Now, in order to unlock the ability to even purchase most of the parts, or even the cars at the dealership though, you need rep, and this is essentially the XP or the leveling system of the game. Those daytime races do not earn you rep, instead rep is earned via nighttime events. The game does not use an actual daytime-nighttime cycle where it transitions from day and night on its own. Rather, you manually switch the time of the day, allowing yourself to play multiple nights in a row if you wish. Now, these illegal nighttime races are a high-stakes, high-rewards type of gamble. Nighttime events will earn you rep, but it also draws the attention of the police. The police patrol at night, and if they see you racing or are aware that you previously participated in a race earlier in the night, and like the star system in GTA, in this game you earn heat. This goes all the way up to heat 5, which indicates how aggressively the police are chasing you. The rep you earn from races or completing other activities on the map, like crashing through billboards or flying through speed traps, is multiplied by the amount of heat you have at the end of the night. This is assuming that you can escape the police and get to a safe house to actually save your rep and your progress. The higher your heat is, the greater your reward to stand to gain because of this multiplier, but also the greater the risk you have of getting busted, which significantly reduces the rep you earn. I found that fleeing the police in this game was a true challenge, particularly on the higher heat levels. Keep in mind that this is a Need for Speed game. It's not like GTA, you can't simply get out of the car and try to outgun your way out of a situation. Instead, your options are a lot more limited to just working with your car, and because of that, you have to get creative with the limited tools you have. Now, unless your car can go over 200 miles per hour consistently, you have no chance of just simply outrunning the cops with pure speed, going on a drag strip down the highway. When I completed the main game, my fastest car was not crossing the 190 mile per hour mark unless I was like driving downhill, so I had to constantly get creative on how to actually flee the police. I got busted a lot early on because I frequently tested my luck with higher heats than I should have, especially in like the first half of the game, maybe the first 2 chapters. You don't want to get on heat higher than 2 or 3 or your car just can't compete. And knowing when to stop is crucial, and planning a few good getaway strategies before getting into trouble is important, or else you'll likely get wrecked, get surrounded, or have the chase go on for far too long where you end up on heat 5 and then it's only a matter of time before you get busted. This is a type of fun pro-consumer game that people like to see. It's also the type of game that as a result probably doesn't make a lot of money post-release for EA. That's probably the reason why EA was quick to pull support, so quick that there was virtually no post-launch content. Though I did find that the face masks that appear early in the game and on some of the players periodically throughout gave me a 2020 vibe, and keep in mind this game did come out in 2019. These weren't patched in later. That's how the game launched in 2019. Now it must have been a fashion thing or something that drivers were doing to conceal their faces. I have no idea. Maybe somebody in the comments can better explain this to me. Now today, if you want to pick up Need for Speed Heat, it's easily available under $20, and honestly it's a fair price for a game that most people will probably spend less than 20 hours with. If you want to unlock a significant amount of the customization, you could spend a ton more time here, but the reality is that won't appeal to the majority of players. Considering you can get Heat via Game Pass on Xbox or even EA Play, which is something like $30 a year and is available on PlayStation or Xbox, even if you don't have Game Pass, this game is well worth your time and probably doesn't need to come at the expense of a lot of money. It's a perfect game to play for a week or two, have a good time with, and move on to something else. It's not going to be earth-shattering, it's not going to blow your mind, it's probably not going to be your favorite game of all time, but that doesn't mean it's not worth giving a shot. And trust me, if you want to play this one before EA comes out with their next original Need for Speed game that will inevitably be bogged down by some sort of microtransactions, you won't regret it. Thanks for watching, I'm Bailey, and I will see you in the next video.